The Dolphins. This is a big offseason.
Huge. Biggest one they've had in a while.
A long time.
This is a big offseason for the Miami Dolphins. Can Mike McDaniel improve the offense? The Miami Dolphins are going to have the most cap of any team, projected over 70+ million with potential cuts. I mean, that's insane amount of money. They can outbid anybody. They went 9-8 this past season. They missed the playoffs because Tua choked against the Titans. They were third in the division.
Raining,
oh, yeah, you're right. It was raining. Yeah, you're right. And Will Fuller is not going to be back. I mean, he didn't play last year anyway. Ogba is a free agent. I would definitely bring him back. Mike Gesicki, I think, goes because he doesn't fit McDaniel's scheme. Austin Reiter.
If you tagged him, it would be cheaper than giving him the contract that is around the Dallas Goedert, what Dallas Shaw is going to be. It's going to be around $11 million. That's fine.
Austin Reiter is a free agent. Jacoby Brissett, Justin Coleman, and Nick Needham. So, Drew, I'll start with you first. Who do you want the Dolphins to sign? What is your dream scenario for Miami this offseason?
I need to see Armstead come to Miami and be the left tackle or the right tackle for the Miami Dolphins. I say right tackle because Tua is left-handed and his blind spot is on the right side. So he's going to get left tackle money. He's played left tackle his entire career. But it would be interesting to see what happens if they do bring him on. Do they keep him at left tackle because that's where he's accustomed to, or because he's so good and he has that ability to change over to the right side, would he play right tackle? I do have concerns about that given the fact that he's 30 years old at this point. Is he going to be willing to switch over to right tackle to do so? If he's getting the money, which Miami has the most money able to make a contract happen for him, maybe it's possible, but I would love to see him. He's the best tackle available in this free agent class. I would love to see him come suit up for Miami. But in terms of weapons for Miami Dolphins, I want to see them get another explosive guy on the end. They have the money. I don't think Devontae Adams is a reasonable play here. Devontae Adams is either staying in Green Bay because the relationship that he's built over there with those guys in the front office. I don't know if he's going to want to part ways with Aaron Rodgers. He's been spoiled up until this point to play with one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever live. It's going to be hard for him to walk away from that type of situation unless the money's really there. Again, Miami has the most money available to make something like that happen. However, to take it off the best case scenario of the number one wide receiver option and number one offensive tackle option, Chris Godwin's an option that that the Miami Dolphins should be looking at. I understand another torn ACL injury. It's a risk there, especially given him a long-term contract. It's 2022. Modern medicine has done a great job in aiding these superstar caliber type players who get these injuries to come back onto the field and be themselves, who they were prior to the injury. Allen Robinson's another one that I understand. You said it. He didn't have the greatest season last year, but you need to surround Tua with guys on the outside that can make plays. Waddle's going to be in a similar Deebo Samuel-esque type of role that I'm sure Miami fans should be excited for. You want the best offensive weapon on your team to have the ball in their hands, however which way it is, whether it's out of the backfield, out of the slant. But you need another guy that's going to draw attention away from him. Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson do that perfectly. I don't want to pay Mike Williams personally. I think that if there's a team that's going to pay him, it's either the Chargers or a team that desperately needs a weapon. I don't think Miami is in a situation where they desperately need a weapon. They have the 29th pick overall. Again, how we mentioned in this with the wide receivers in the last segment with the Patriots, there's wide receivers in this draft. If they didn't want to pay top dollar or they miss out on a Chris Godwin, they miss out on Allen Robinson, they could sit at 29 and they could take from what's left over. And Chris Olave is probably going to be there around pick 29. That's not a bad selection for them by any means. I just think that there's a lot of room for improvement this offseason, and there's a lot of opportunity for the Dolphins to do so. You bring in Armstead, you bring in another wide receiver, whether it's through the draft or through free agency, which I would more than willing to bring in Chris Godwin regardless of the injury.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah, I think this offseason, I wrote it down here, the biggest W is improving everything on the offense. Because we talked about it, they had the worst offensive line in the NFL. Their right guard, Hunt, was really the only one who graded out to be even somewhat of a decent offensive linemen, everybody else. I saw you tweet something about Jesse Davis saying to get him the hell out of
I
here.
didn't want to mention him in my spiel, but it's a common fact. He's horrible.
Yeah, so it starts with the offensive line, right? Especially with what McDaniel's going to want to do. You're going to have to have a strong offensive line, and Teron Armstead is a perfect fit. That's going to be their Trent Williams, kind of how the 49ers did a couple of years ago, trading a second-round pick to get him, and he brought in and really seemed to change that entire line and what they were doing, because he turned into, but he almost elevated his game even more and became PFF's number one rated player.
99.8?
It might have been like their number one player ever. The way he was able to elevate, especially at an older age, just like Armstead is, makes a lot of sense. I think that's a scheme that will fit him well. But you have the money to go out and get multiple guys. If you want to go and get a Brandon Scherf or a Ryan Jensen, there's players out there, especially in free agency, because Miami has a defense that's ready to win now, right? They have Tua, who they believe in, thinks they could win now too. It's just the offense that's lagging behind right now. They went and got the offensive coach who they think is the perfect fit for Tua, which I agree with. I thought that was one of my favorite, if not my favorite hire of the offseason, was bringing in McDaniel. I think he's going to be able to get the most out of Tua and this offense. I love the way that he's been talking about Waddle and Tua as well, but using him in that Debo-esque role, just getting him out in space, because he's an explosive playmaker. He's someone that I want the ball in his hands 10 to 15 times a game, whether that is running screens, jet passes, whatever it might be. Get him the ball, good things are going to happen. I think wide receiver is another area they have to upgrade. I've been on record saying I'm not a big Devontae Parker fan. I know you saw the stat, most contested catches in the league.
I was shocked to see that.
Which I also was too. I think for Tua, he needs a guy who could separate a bit more than Devontae Parker, because I saw people in the comments, it's kind of dumb, but if you're getting contested catches, it means you can't separate. It's kind of stupid, but I get what they're saying in terms of it is. It's stupid, but it's true, because even if you're in that situation, if you're winning, that's a good thing, you know? And maybe I've been a bit too harsh on Devontae Parker, but I think that's someone they gave a lot of money to. I want to say last season, a 3-4 year contract, over $10 million a year, if I'm correct.
Let's see.
So I think wide receiver is another area. Like I said, they have the money if they want to go and overpay for Chris Godwin and get a potential elite wide receiver in there. I know he plays the slot, and that's where Waddle does too, but I think Waddle, you can really put him all over the field. Whether you want to put him outside, inside, running back, wherever you want to put him, he's going to be able to excel there. And then lastly is running back. Myles Gaskin this past season wasn't great. They have the money and the draft capital. I don't think they'll take a running back round one, but a guy like a Melvin Gordon from Denver, Raheem Mostert, obviously, that San Francisco connection, Leonard Fournette, or even someone like Deontay Foreman, who might be cheap, someone you could get with some high upside, who showed out, especially when Derrick Henry went down. In the draft, you mentioned Chris Olave. It's going to be interesting because the draft's all over the place in terms of where you guys have receivers. I've seen people have Treylon Burks, who at this point is my wide receiver one. I've seen him falling all the way to the late 20s to Buffalo. So it's hard to predict how the draft's going to fall right now, but if you do have the chance to get a game changer like a Treylon Burks, if he's somehow still there, if Jameson Williams, we talked about him too, but it's just about surrounding Tua with weapons, give McDaniel the guy he needs to really make this offense pop, make it his offense, because the defense is ready to win. If they get this offense up to speed, they could go and make the playoffs.
You know, it's funny because Tua's rookie year, I remember the dialogue around it. It was the weapons on offense aren't good enough. Then this past season, it changed from the weapons on offense to the offensive line.
No, it's that Tua wasn't good enough. That's what I've heard. Nothing but.
Well, he's not good enough. He's average, but he had similar stats to Davis Mills. Just saying, Davis Mills
was impressive.
I mean, what is he? He was an average quarterback his rookie season. That's what it is.
You got to give him respect for what he did over in Houston with minimal.
He did. He played well.
This offseason,
I'm sure Davis Mills is watching right now. He's saying, "Tisk tisk."
This offseason is all about upgrading the offensive line.
Amen, brother.
I don't care about another receiver. Jalen Waddle's going to be a star. Devontae Parker is reliable enough.
He's in and out of the lineup a lot.
This is all about the offensive line. And when I look at the potential free agents, I'm looking at scheme fits. McDaniel realizes that Tua is not going to be a great quarterback.
10 games.
So
10.
McDaniel realizes Tua's not going to be a great quarterback. So he needs
What in God's name? What made you believe that?
He needs to scheme
what
up
have you seen
a running
that
game.
makes you think McDaniel believes that in any way?
I'm just assuming. That's
You're just reading between the lines here?
Yeah, I'm assuming.
Okay.
You know what happens when you assume, bro?
Because of that, he knows, okay, I need to scheme up a great running game around Tua, have a lot of play action, and do things that Tua's comfortable with, RPOs, screens, quick passes, and setting up a run game is perfect for that in that scheme.
He's only comfortable with that because he has to.
I look at if we did it in college. What are you talking about with the stacked offensive line? That's what he had. That's how he played in college.
Oh, he never let the ball go deep down the field ever?
Alabama's system was an RPO system.
I understand what you're saying. He never let the ball down the field.
I'm not saying he didn't throw the ball deep, but
he has those capabilities.
That was the scheme. The same exact scheme that they schemed up from this past season is what he did in Alabama.
He's best with.
That is what he's best with.
We'll
RPO scheme. That's literally the scheme he's been in.
Because he's been forced into that.
Okay. Neither here or there. I look at potential fits. Laken Tomlinson is a guy who I'm going to mention again because he's one of the top-rated guards in this free agency class. Coming from San Fran, Mike McDaniel already knows his tendencies, who he is as a player.
Very good point.
This is just my prediction.
Yeah.
Laken Tomlinson is going to be a Miami Dolphin in free agency. Stamp it 100%. I think Robert Hunt, he spared himself. He'll start next year at guard as well. I think so. I look at another team in the Tennessee Titans who were a run-first team, who their center, Ben Jones, is a free agent. If I'm Miami, I'm bringing him in. Morgan Moses. Hey, I don't got to pay top dollar for Morgan Moses, and even if I do, I'm Miami. I can spend it. He's a good run blocker.
I think he might get a decent contract just because there's not a lot of great tackles.
Then you top it off with Teron Armstead, because I think they'll outbid everybody. It's really on if Teron Armstead says, do I want to play with Tua or Joe Burrow? Really, and that's an easy answer. But I'm just saying,
is the only other one I'm looking at.
Money talks sometimes. And then Mike Gesicki, I've already said, I think he's out. Unless Mike McDaniel somehow thinks he can transform him into a run blocker and to actually playing the tight end position, because Mike Gesicki lines up as a wide receiver 90% of the time.
No doubt.
The tight end I have for the Dolphins then signing is Hayden Hurst or Gerald Everett. I think they've been in a run-first scheme before. Hayden Hurst with Baltimore, Gerald Everett with the Rams. That's a good fit. So my offense is, and also running back, I have the Dolphins signing Raheem Mostert.
David Njoku is a tight end that I wouldn't mind them bringing in also, given the fact that he is a very good blocker for the tight end position. At 70, I believe his blocking grade was around a 70 this past season or
also,
first career.
Someone who's athletic, first-round pedigree, someone who is highly touted coming out of college, just hasn't been able to prove it yet.
No doubt.
So my offense for the Dolphins is Tua, Mostert, Waddle, Parker, Hayden Hurst, Armstead, Tomlinson, Ben Jones, Hunt, and Morgan Moses. And that, I think, is a realistic scenario because I really don't think they're going to get an Armstead and a Ryan Jensen and a Brandon Scherf. I just don't think that's all going to happen.
They're not going to get all of those guys. But
I feel like this is the most realistic thing. I've looked at some mock drafts. Nakobe Dean is mocked to go to the Dolphins. They do need a linebacker. And Daniel Jeremiah had a Tyler Smith offensive tackle going to the Dolphins as well. So I feel like the Dolphins, look, they've missed enough on tackles and offensive linemen in the draft. You just got to go buy them. That's it. They hit on skill positions, Javon Holland, Jalen Waddle. They've hit on those. Just keep drafting those guys. I think Miami, they can draft a receiver at 29. That's where I think they're sitting right now because they got the 49ers pick.
Yep.
They can draft a receiver at that round or in the second round. They can do that. I don't think they need to go spend it in free agency because I don't see anybody that's a free agent currently that I'm like, he's a perfect scheme fit. I really don't. I look at a lot of
Godwin. You say that he loves RPOs. Name another guy in the slot better than Chris Godwin in free agency outside of Devontae Parker.
I mean, Chris Godwin is a great slot, but I think he can play on the outside too.
No, exactly.
But I think Jalen Waddle is going to fill that role. I don't think the Dolphins need to go out and spend for a Chris Godwin given what he just got injured with.
But they're going to want to prove that Tua is the guy. So they're they're probably more willing to go and spend up for these high-end players.
Yeah, maybe they go after him. Maybe they do. And it would be a great move. I'm not against it.
Yeah, for sure.
But this offseason is all about offensive line first. We'll worry about everything after.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
The Dolphins have enough receivers to win games.
If the Dolphins,
Waddle, Parker.
Waddle Parker. I think Waddle is going to be a top 15 receiver.
Gesicki out. You want to get rid of Gesicki. I understand the scheme fit, but he was really their second best receiver this year. Waddle and Parker, bro.
Waddle's going to be a top 15 receiver this upcoming season.
Don't get me wrong, 100%.
Super in.
But it's just, in this era of football, you need multiple guys. Parker and Waddle don't do it for me.
You say that, but like we see offenses have success without having those multiple guys, especially with the pass-heavy attack.
Look at the Super Bowl.
Well, the Bills are one of them. Like Stephon Diggs is their only prime-time player, and they had success.
That's also unfortunate that it's Josh Allen.
Yeah. It's Tua Josh Allen?
Of course not. He's not Josh Allen. But at some look,
I mean, look at the Bengals, the Rams, the Chiefs, the
Chiefs have two.
Yes, the Dolphins don't have two; they have one.
They have one. I think that's enough. And plus the scheme is different. The Chiefs are a pass-heavy attack versus the Dolphins are a run-first team.
Run first.
They're going to be a run-first team.
I was going to say because they were bottom 3 this past season.
Yeah, but McDaniel, we know what his system is. We know he's going to try to implement a run-first system in Miami, without a doubt. A zone scheme, without a doubt. So, you look at the 49ers in 2019. They didn't have – it was just Emmanuel Sanders, and they traded for him mid-season.
They also – I mean, the defense, I guess, comparable because Miami Kittle. Did, but Shanahan's a great –
Oh, Kittle, yeah, he's a great tight end. But on the outside – they traded for Sanders mid-season, and he's, at that time at least, was not a number 1. He was like a high-end 2, low-end 2, and they made the Super Bowl. So I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think the Dolphins are going to make any type of run like that. They definitely won't make it to the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl.
Well, you didn't think that they would go on a 7-game win streak, 8-game win streak.
I did think they weren't going to make the playoffs ultimately, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that was because they were 1-7 to start the season. Big guess.
No. Like in the midst of the win streak, because the win streak was very fluky. They just beat bad teams for the most part. Yeah, they faced the Saints with Ian Book. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't even have to worry about him offensively.
And Minnesota lost to the Lions. It's just things that happen, right? You got to do your job. You got to win.
This isn't about Minnesota.
Good team. No, I'm just speaking facts. Good teams.
Got to play a schedule. I understand.
That's it.
I understand, but then the first good team they faced in the Titans,
got a point.
They got spanked.
The number 1 seed in the AFC, right?
That lost in the first round.
Their first round.
To the team that went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right?
But I know what you're saying. It wasn't competitive against Tennessee, though.
It was not an ideal situation.
I'll say this. Just to fulfill your fantasy. Look,
34-3 is crazy.
If you want the Dolphins to go out and
no, personally, I feel like best case you bring in Jansen, you bring in Terrell Armstead.
Those are your two big moves.
That's who I would ideally want.
That's cool. What I'm saying is this.
Whatever he's going to say.
If you want the fantasy of, okay, let's stack the offensive line, let's stack receivers, all that stuff. Guess what? Let's say the Dolphins get all that. The result is going to be the same. Okay. At the end of the day,
this guy's just chatting.
At the end of the day, he can have all that, and we're going to be sitting back here saying he's still not the guy.
But that's why I think they go out and make those moves, because they're going to want to prove that Tua is the guy. That's why I think they'll go and overpay for all of these receivers or offensive linemen if they have to.
Look, I don't want to be all Dolphin slander here.
Because that's what it's
I will say this.
Dolphin slander.
The Dolphins are in a good position. They can stack up their offensive line. Yeah. The Dolphins have a chance to go from the 32nd ranked offensive line to a top 10 based on their cap situation and the names that are out there in free agency. I do think they have enough weapons, but whatever. If you want to bring in another big name like Chris Godwin, go do it. I think they have the potential to make a lot of splash moves this offseason and improve significantly. But let's also understand this. The Dolphins defense, in terms of points, were one of the better ones. But they give up a lot of yards. I wonder how Brian Flores, his absence, how that affects that defense.
I think the defense takes a step back for sure. But I feel like they were also top in the league in terms of like sacks, turnovers.
That's true, but, they
were playmaking defense.
Xavier Howard, I love him as a corner. He's a great corner. Byron Jones has not been what he's been in Dallas. He's been a major disappointment.
They gave him a bag.
They gave him a lot of money.
And even then, they still have a ton of money. But look, they have a chance to make a lot of splash moves.
I feel like ideally, you bring in Jansen, bring in Terrell Armstead, and just to fill the need of wide receiver and to still get a big name, you bring in Allen Robinson on a 2-year deal, giving him, I would say, around 13, 14 million. He's not worth the 15, 16. Not right now, not after the season he had last year. But you fill every need that you need right there. You at least addressed two of your biggest needs in offensive line and wide receiver. And now you're putting Tua in a way better situation than what you gave him last year. If that's the case, there's no Dolphin fan that can complain.
Yeah. So I have a question for you two then, and give me your honest answer. Even though I don't think I'm going to get it from you.
Says you.
Let's say the Dolphins, they have a lot of cap space this offseason. Let's say perfect scenario. They get the top offensive lineman, Teron Armstead, bring in Ryan Jensen, get a receiver. This team looks completely different. How is Tua's season next season? What are his numbers?
I'm waiting for Drew's answer. You don't have one yet?
He had 16. He had 16 touchdowns, 10 picks this past season.
I think if you do all of that, you need to see high 20s touchdowns, interceptions, 8 to 11, and 4,000 yards.
I guess a better question is,
He played 12 and a half games this year.
I guess a better question is, if the Dolphins do all that and surround Tua with all these weapons and good protection, does he prove himself as a franchise quarterback this season?
That's without a doubt. That I have no worries about. I really don't. Waddle is a primetime player. You're surrounding him with another primetime wide receiver. You're giving me best case scenario, right?
Best case scenario. So let's say Godwin. Godwin goes there.
You're giving me Chris Godwin, Jalen Waddle, Mike McDaniel, who's one of the more brilliant, innovative run coordinators. It does not matter who you put at running back. Look, we saw Duke Johnson come in towards the end of the season, him have really good success back there. You're giving me Terrell Armstead. You're giving me Jansen. They're probably going to draft a lineman with their picks, regardless of what they want to do with that 29th pick in the first round. If you went lineman, if you went wide receiver, I wouldn't blame you as long as you go one of those two. Linebacker makes sense also because they do have a hole, but specifically you need to address the worst offensive line that was last season. Tua more than solidifies himself because he was more than serviceable this past season, getting more than unwarranted disrespect throughout the entire run of it all. And he still had 2,600 in 12 and a half games. You give him all this, we're looking up upwards of 36 to 38, maybe 4,000. I really don't have worries.
I think 2,600 yards in 12 games isn't crazy.
12 and a half.
Yeah, that's
so
like
you think
220 yards a game.
So you think Tua throws 4,000 yards next season?
No, see, look, this is what gets me on TikTok.
He plays 17 games.
But you're telling me you're giving 17 games with a great O-line, right? Because you're giving me Terrell Armstead. Teron, excuse me. I apologize. You give me Teron Armstead. You're giving me Jansen. Chris Godwin. Jalen Waddle.
No excuse.
No, there's absolutely no excuse.
Yeah. I feel like 4,000 yards, 17 games is not that hard. I think like half the quarterbacks in the league did that.
If you give him protection, you give him time, and he actually can let the ball fly downfield. He has the arm strength. Excuse me. He has the arm talent to do so. He can let the ball fly downfield as well. He had a pass at 55 air yards this past season.
That was good. That's nice.
What? That 55 air yards is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Tua,
no, that's great.
If you're giving him Godwin and the offensive line, sure, yeah, he could be. But I still think there's going to be discussions about you could upgrade from Tua. You know what I'm saying?
Which would be rude and disrespectful, condescending.
Because even still, like when you're talking about a guy like a Kirk Cousins, like there's still discussion. Even though he puts up great numbers, like can we upgrade from him? You know, even when he has all these weapons,
that's fair.
That's the only thing. Like, can he be the franchise? Sure, but you're also gonna still get whispers saying we could upgrade.
Yeah,
I like that. So does Tua enter the Kirk Cousins tier after next season?
If Tua enters
that's a W.
That's a huge W. If Tua's Kirk Cousins, that's a huge W.
If Tua's Kirk Cousins in year 3,
does he do it though? So I'm asking.
You in this scenario you're giving me, I have no worries about
It's
it.
his best chance. I still don't give him I give him like a
in this
60% chance.
In this scenario,
yeah, he has a pretty good chance.
I mean, what are the odds that he throws for 4,000 yards, and what are the odds that McDaniel changes around the scheme and the offense, and they're a run-first team, and the running back rushes for over 1,000, and Tua's at like 3,300 yards